In this video, you will learn about the next key to success and expectation of students at Kings Peak High School. This is that students are expected to maintain regular communication with their teachers. Effective communication between students and teachers is an essential skill that will not only benefit students while attending Kings Peak, it is a skill that will benefit them throughout their entire life. Learning to maintain open and regular communication will benefit students no matter what career they choose. Learning to communicate in a virtual learning environment, such as Kings Peak, requires students to develop additional skill sets, as a geographical distance makes it necessary to use different methods. The good news is that there are many methods of communication that can effectively overcome the challenges created by this distance between the teacher and student. Teachers at Kings Peak are experts at helping students learn. However, it is difficult for them to help their students unless they know what help they need. To find this out, they need help from the students. Again, because teachers and students are not in the same room, the teachers cannot see when the student is struggling to understand a concept. This is somewhat different than a traditional classroom. For example, in a traditional classroom, a student might let a teacher know they need help by raising their hand. If a student did the same thing in a virtual classroom, their teacher would never know they needed help no matter how long they kept their hand raised. They would only accomplish a sore arm. While this is sort of an absurd example, it effectively illustrates the point that in order to get help, students in a virtual classroom will need to employ different methods to communicate their needs than they might in a traditional setting. Without communicating with their teacher, a teacher can't tell if a student didn't submit their work because they didn't want to or they didn't know how to. While there is a big difference for the student, it looks the same to the teacher. That is, until the student asks for help. Once they communicate this need for help to their teacher, there are many ways a teacher can help them learn. Students at Kings Peak can choose to communicate with their teachers from a variety of methods. They may choose to use their school email or Canvas inbox. They may also choose to use their phone to call or text their teachers directly. All teachers at Kings Peak have a Google Voice account. This allows students to use a familiar method to communicate with their teachers. It also allows teachers to quickly answer text messages through their school account on their computer. Many students and teachers find this method to be the fastest form of communication. Additionally, when students have more complex questions that require a more detailed response, email and text are sometimes insufficient. Instead, these questions are best answered either in person or in an individual Zoom meeting. Teachers are in the office one day a week and are available to meet with students by appointment. To make an appointment, students will simply text, call, or email their teacher and ask if they can set up an appointment. The teacher will then send a link for a time that works for both to meet over Zoom. While students are able to send messages to teachers 24/7, teachers are not expected to answer messages outside of normal school hours. Teachers' hours at Kings Peak are 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. If students send messages outside of these hours, they will need to be patient and wait for a response. Teachers are typically able to answer questions by the next school day. However, there are times during the quarter or around holidays where this response time may be longer. Another component of effective communication is that students respond to the messages from teachers. One of the most meaningful ways that teachers communicate with students is through feedback on assignments. In Canvas, teachers have the ability to make comments to students about their work directly on the assignments that are submitted. Students can also use this feature to help speed up the communication process. Whatever method you choose to use to communicate with your teacher, it is important to always use the highest level of communication etiquette. Among other things, this includes maintaining a positive and professional tone. One common mistake that students make is to forget to include their name and course in the email or text message. Remembering to include this detail will save a good deal of time for both teacher and student. Through regular communication, students learn to form meaningful relationships with their teachers, who soon become their best assets to success in learning. While it may be difficult for some students to begin communicating in this new way, doing so is crucial to success, and it becomes easier as it becomes a common practice. Put another way, Ralph Waldo Emerson stated, "That which we persist in doing becomes easier to do, not that the nature of the thing has changed, but that our power to do it has increased.